Good morning. How are you? Many of you are asking doubts, especially when classwork is assigned. Sir, we all of our class books are kept in the school. What shall we do? So, if you have classwork, no problem. You can write within the classwork. If you have no classwork, then you do one thing. Take A4 sheet papers and draw the lines on all four sides neatly and write your C work on A4 sheets and start in the whole lesson. And then we will keep this the stipend bundle within the C work. By that you need not write the C work again. Simply whatever the A4 sheets we will keep in the classwork, and then we can just note the note. It will be noted down in the index. So you have to write either in classwork if classwork is not there with you, just take A4 sheet papers, draw the margins on all four sides and then write down. So again you need not write in the classwork. I think, is it clear? And then come to the class, whatever we discussed in previous class. In previous class we learned about what makes India a federal country. What makes India a federal country? Especially we discussed about diversity. So in India, being a seventh largest country and second most populous country in the world, and moreover India is a multilingual society as well as multicultural society, and many religions are there in our country, as well as different food habits, traditions, customs, dressing habits. These are all different from place to place. So that's why, because of this tremendous diversity in our country, federalism is good for us, because federalism accommodates diversity. At the same time it promotes and secures integrity of the country. So that's why our constitutional framers adopted all the federal features in our constitution. And this Article 1 of Indian Constitution declares that India is a union of states. But the word federalism is not at all there in our constitution. But whatever the features of federalism, all the features are in our constitution. And then we discussed about how the powers are divided between governments at different levels. That means central government, state government as well as local government. And moreover, especially in Schedule 7 explains about the division of legislative powers between central government and state government. Okay, legislative powers are divided between central government and state government as per Schedule 7 of Indian Constitution. Especially Article 245 as well as 246. These two articles explains about the division of legislative powers between union government and state governments. As well as already in previous class we discussed about union legislature as well as state legislature. Union legislature is nothing but parliament, which consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha as well as president. And state legislature. Here some of the states are following unicameral system, that means only legislative assembly and governor. And some of the states are following bicameral legislative system. That means legislative assembly, legislative council and governor. This is all about the state legislature. And then we discussed about different subjects which are categorized under four lists to make laws in our country. What are those four lists? Union list, state list, concurrent list and judiciary subjects. Union list. The subjects of national interest are kept under union list on the subjects of union list, central government, that means the parliament, have power to make the necessary laws for the country. These laws are implemented all over the country. So, what are the examples of this union list? In union list, 100 subjects are incorporated in the initial time. Now, 97 subjects are there in union list. Example, foreign affairs, defense. Defense means which includes all three forces, Navy, Air Force, military and all. And then banking, RBI, postal services, railways, LIC, etc. All these subjects are in union list. So parliament has power to make laws on union list. These laws are applicable to the whole nation. And the second category is state list. Some subjects are kept in state list because most of the day-to-day administration are looking after by state governments. That is why these subjects are kept under state list. So, what are the important subjects in state list? In earlier it was somehow 61 subjects are there at present in state list. Example, police, law and order, irrigation, agriculture, trade, etc. These are all comes under state list. In the subjects of state list, state government can make the laws. Some extraordinary conditions, central government also can make the laws on the subjects of state list. And what are those circumstances? One, if national government imposed Article 352, that means a national emergency. If country is under national emergency as per Article 352, union government can make the laws, that means parliament can make the laws on the subjects of state list. And if in any state, president rule is imposed by president as per Article 366, at the time also, the laws are made by parliament for that particular state. And if Rajya Sabha passes any resolution with a 2/3 majority to make uniform laws on the state subjects, at that time also parliament can make the laws on the subjects of state list. In general, state legislature has power to make the laws on state subjects. These laws are that means these laws can be implemented within that particular state only. And third one is concurrent list. Concurrent list is nothing but joint list. That means some of the subjects are kept under joint list. Earlier it was 52, now it is in 47. The overall list of concurrent subjects are 47 are there at present. Example, criminal procedure and IPC, Indian Penal Code, and marriage, divorce, as well as adoption, succession. These kind of things are concerned. Education, forest. These are all kept in concurrent list. So on the subjects of concurrent list, both parliament as well as the state legislature has power to make the laws. So have any contradiction that takes place between the law which is made by parliament as well as state legislature of any particular state? That clarity is given in the Indian Constitution that the law which is passed by parliament is supreme. That means it has an upper hand over the state law on concurrent list. And fourth one is residuary subjects. That means the subjects which are not categorized under in the union list, state list or concurrent list. These are all comes under residuary subjects. That means whatever the subjects which are not there when our constitution was framed. So suppose software, it was not there at that time. But now we have to make some laws on software also. So these kind of things comes under residuary powers or residuary subjects. On the subjects which are categorized under residuary subjects, Parliament has power to make the laws. In this way, how the legislative powers are divided between union government and state government are clear as per Indian Constitution. And in previous class we discussed about how Jammu and Kashmir generally considered it has some sort of special powers as per Article 370 as well as 35A. And we discussed about the history of Jammu and Kashmir, how it was incorporated into Indian Union through Delhi Agreement between Jawaharlal Nehru and the Raja Hari Singh, who was the ruler of Kashmir at that time. So that's why as per that agreement, Article 370 as well as 35A were incorporated in the Indian Constitution. These provisions gave some special status to Jammu and Kashmir. But Article 370 as well as 35A, these two articles were revoked by the Indian Parliament in August 2019. So now Jammu and Kashmir has no special powers. Moreover, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was converted into, it was divided into Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir, and these two made as a union territories by the Indian Parliament. So that's why there are no special powers to Jammu and Kashmir at present. And some of the states are enjoying special category status on economic fronts. That's what we thoroughly discussed in previous class. 11 states in our country have special category status. So those are all 7 northeastern states, Sikkim as well as Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, Ladakh also now comes under that category only. So these all have special category status. By that they may get more benefits from the central government, more economic assistance from the central government when compared to other states. This is possible in our country because our country is following holding together federalism. And we discussed about a constitutional guarantees. That means one level of government cannot amend the Indian Constitution as per its wish. So suppose central government can't take the powers of state government as per its wish without the consent of state governments. So that means 3 procedures also we discussed. That means that the division of power between central government or state government are categorized into third provision, third procedure of Indian, how the Indian Constitution is amended. That means a 2/3 majority within the Parliament and majority of the states should ratify the Constitution. Then only the constitutional amendment is possible regarding the division of power between central government and state government. That means central government can't take the powers of state. So this constitutional guarantee was given in our Constitution. And moreover, we discussed about role of judiciary in federalism also. In federalism, judiciary must play important role because any disputes which arise between central government and state government or dispute between one state with other state or between different states, at that time judiciary has an important role and it resolves the issue and it acts as the umpire between central government and state government. So that's why these kind of all provisions are incorporated in the Constitution which sustain federalism in our country. And come to today's topic. So today we are going to learn about how is federalism practiced? How is federalism practiced in our country? That means since independence to present time, how is federalism practiced in our country? Especially regarding 3 important issues. Those are linguistic states, and language policy, and then center state relation. So these three topics we are going to learn. Those are linguistic states, language policy, and central state relationship. Okay, come to how the political map of India, which it changed since independence. So in textbook, the map is given, you go through once. In 1947, India was divided into two countries based on religion, you know it, India and Pakistan. At that time, in India, we have 8 provinces as well as 3 presidencies and 560 native states. That means these 560 native states were ruling by our native Rajas. This was the political scenario during the time of Indian independence. And you compare this political map which is given in our textbook with present political map of India. What is the present political map of India? Now we have 28 states and 8 union territories. Actually, in previous class, I said that in India we have 28 states and 9 union territories. Actually, now we have only 8 union territories because recently in 2020 January, both Dadra, Nagar and Haveli, Dayu and Daman, these 2 union territories are merged on the name of Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Dayu and Daman. So Daman is the capital for this union territory. In this way, these 2 union territories are merged and make into only one union territory. So that's why now we have 28 states and 8 union territories at present. So at that time, 8 provinces, 3 presidencies. Now it is 28 states and 8 union territories. So how this political map of India is changed from its independence? And on what basis these states are reorganized? And moreover, so we have a clarity that Indian Constitution gives clarity regarding division of power between central and state. That means that is not enough. That means making rules are not enough. You have to follow the rules. Then only we will get success. Suppose some classrooms are made by the management, but both the teachers and children should follow the classroom, the rules whatever which is formulated by the management. Otherwise it won't be successful. The nation is also the same. Our constitutional framers gave some sort of clarity regarding the division of power between central government and state government. The thing is how these constitutional provisions are practiced in our country practically. How the political parties adopted this division of power, how the different organs adopted this division of power, how these are executed, and what were the practical problems which were faced from independence to till now. That what we have to know. Then only we can understand how the federalism is practicing in our country, how it sustained over the long period in our country and all. So that's why, first of all, let's examine the linguistic states. That means how the states are reorganized. When it gave independence, Britishers gave freedom to the native Rajas. Already we know that somehow more than 560 native states. Britishers gave 3 options to these native Rajas. If you want to join with India, you can join. If you want to join with Pakistan, that option is also given to these kings. And third option is if they want to retain as a separate kingdom, they can continue as a separate kingdom. So it was complicated task for the Indian government to integrate all these 560 states into Indian Union. So the task was given to the Home Minister of India at the time, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and he took the charge for the unification of our country. So he persuaded with the native Rajas and he explained the importance of a single country and all. Most of the kings accepted to merge their kingdoms into Indian Union, except 3 kingdoms. Those are Nizam of Hyderabad, Junagadh, which is in Gujarat, as well as Kashmir. These 3 were not ready to merge with Indian Union. So, Union government took police action against Nizam of Hyderabad as well as Junagadh. Kashmir issue, last class we discussed how the Pakistan made its attempts to occupy Kashmir, and then how India rescued the Kashmir. Later, how this Kashmir merged with the Indian Union. So, Indian Union. So, these are all we learned earlier classes. And states are reorganized mainly based on language. Not only language, mostly most important criteria to reorganize the states in our country. What are other criteria? Ethnicity, especially northeastern states, as well as culture. That means same language states are also divided into 2. Best example, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are divided. Both are speaking Telugu only. So here cultural differences. Suppose Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, as well as Bihar and Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So all these states are reorganized even though these states are speaking same language because of culture. So that's why language, ethnicity, geography and culture, based on all these 4 criteria, states are reorganized. And when it started, especially before independence only, some of the people of some of the regions in our country demanded the British to reorganize the states based on language. Suppose if you take Andhra Pradesh, that means present Andhra Pradesh, it was a part of Madras Presidency. At that time, Telugu speaking people demanded to create new state for Telugu speaking people because there Tamil people dominate other language speaking people in Madras Presidency. That is why our people demanded to create a new state for Telugu speaking people. Suppose if you take Karnataka, it means present Karnataka. Present Karnataka, some parts were part of Madras Presidency, some are in Mysore province, and some parts in Bombay Presidency. Some are under the control of Nizam. Later it was merged with that means it was a part of Hyderabad state. So the Kannada people demanded to create Samyukta Kannada state. Gujarat people demanded separate state for Gujaratis. Variya people demanded to create separate state for Variya speaking people. In this way, this demand was there even during the time of British. So at the time, Congress party was also supported over this demand, and it was in favor of reorganize the states based on language. But after independence, Congress party was somehow it was a dilemma to create the new states based on language and all. That means some of the leaders, national leaders of Congress were feared about creating new states based on language because these leaders thought that just now only India was bifurcated into India and Pakistan on communal basis, and many communal revolts that took place. Now we are consolidating as a nation. That's why this is not the right time to create states based on language. But this movement continued in different parts of the country, especially it is more vibrant in Madras, especially Telugu speaking people. So Telugu speaking people went on dharnas as well as organizing protests as well as positions over the demand of creating new state for Telugu speaking people. Especially in 1958 December, Sri Potti Sri Ramulu, who started his fasting unto death, so his fast continued up to December, that means 58 days of fasting. Finally he died in December 1952. So Telugu people got angry because Potti Sri Ramulu sacrificed his life for the creation of a separate state for Telugu speaking people. Then we seen some sort of violent incidents in Madras presidency as well as different parts of present Andhra. So because of all these things, Jawaharlal Nehru made a statement in Indian Parliament that yes, we are ready to create a separate state for Telugu speaking people, and that program is that means that plan is initiated itself. So in this way, 1st October 1953, a new state was created for Telugu speaking people, that named as a Andhra state. Its capital was Kurnool at that time. So when our new state was created for the Telugu speaking people, so because Andhra state was the first linguistic state in our country, so that's why in all other areas also the people started their demands. Why don't you create separate state for Gujarat? Gujarat people demanded. Why don't you create separate state for Malayalam people? Why don't you create a separate state for so and so? So in this way, all over the country we see some sort of demands to reorganize the states based on language. So over all these demands, to consider all these demands, central government constituted SRC, States Reorganization Commission. What is it? States Reorganization Commission. It was constituted in 1953 to examine the demands to reorganize the states based on language. So it toured all over the country and it examined different demands of different states which are demanding for separate states based on language and all. Finally, it submitted its report in 1956 to the central government, and it recommended to reorganize the states based on language. So on the recommendations of States Reorganization Commission, actually this States Reorganization Commission consists of 3 members. Those were Fazal Ali, K.M. Panikkar, Hudaynath Kunjru. These 3 were the members of States Reorganization Commission, which was headed by Fazal Ali. That's why this States Reorganization Commission was also known as Fazal Ali Commission, being the head of the commission. So it finally gave its report in favor of reorganizing the states based on language. That's why the states were reorganized based on language. So in 1956 November 1st, 14 states and 6 union territories were reorganized based on language. In this way, linguistic states are formed in our country on 1st November 1956. So the present Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, that means earlier in 1948, Indian government take police action against Nizam. By that, Telangana became independent and it was merged with Indian Union, and Hyderabad state was created. So based on this linguistic formula, both Hyderabad state and Andhra state were merged and formed as a Andhra Pradesh on 1st November 1956. Of course, this recent story, we know that how Telangana is separated from Andhra Pradesh on 2nd June 2014. So that means when these 2 states were incorporated and merged as a Andhra Pradesh, some of the Telangana leaders opposed this decision and they thought that somehow Andhra people are better educated people, so these people may grab the opportunities of Telangana. So they come with the demand of separate Telangana from Andhra Pradesh and all. In 1960s and early 1970s, we see the movement. And even in the Andhra, some of the Andhra people also demanded to separate both in the form of Jai Andhra movement and all. But Union government was not ready to do so. After the second phase of Telangana revolution, which started after 2000, and then finally in 2014 it was separated based on culture and whatever the political motives. This is different matter and all. So in this way states are divided. Later many states are divided. Suppose Punjab and Haryana were separated based on Hindi as well as Punjabi. And then the same language states are also divided based on culture, backwardness, whatever the reasons and all. So on the whole, now the political map of India, we have 28 states and 8 union territories. So initially, whatever our leaders feared about the creation of linguistic states, they thought that if we create the linguistic states, it may threat the unity of our nation. But it gave good result, which strengthened the nation, because all the people in different states feels that we are Telugu speaking people are Andhra state and I am an Indian. Tamil, I am a Tamilian, I am an Indian. I am a Gujarati, I am an Indian. These kind of people which developed among all the people of our country. That's why linguistic states proven that which strengthen the nationalism as well as and the success of federalism. So in this way, our leaders were that means they took a better decision by reorganizing the states based on language. And come to language policy. Already we know that India is a land of multilingual society. So in any other country in the world have these many languages like India. In India we have many languages. At the same time, each language is speaking by crores of people. So that's why what is the main communicative language within the country. So anyhow, during the time of British, that problem was not there because English was the communicative language between central government and state government. So when we got independence, and then which language will continue as a linked language or communicative language? In many other countries, we see some national languages. Suppose if you take US, America, their national language is English. In France, French is the national language. In Pakistan, Urdu is their national language. But in India, what is the national language for India? We have no national language because it is a multilingual society. So many languages are there. If you make only one language as a national language, then it will hamper the unity of our country. That's why our constitutional frameworks did not recognize any of our languages as a national language. Simply it recognized only English and Hindi as official languages. So and moreover, it recommended the Union government to take necessary steps to promote Hindi in non-Hindi states in a gradual way. By that, slowly we have to replace English with Hindi. So that was the motive of Indian Constitution. So as per Article 343(1), Indian Constitution recognized Hindi as its official language, and we aim to replace English with Hindi over a period of time. But about other languages, so that is why in Indian Constitution recognized 22 languages as its official languages. Hindi and other 21 languages are recognized as official languages in our country. So by that, one who want to write his civil services examinations, they may write out of these 22 languages, any of these 22 languages. By that, we overcome the problem of a language. And come to how to replace the English with Hindi. We set some target period and all. By 1965, we aim to replace English with Hindi. That's why in 1963, Indian Parliament made an act, that is Official Language Act. Official Language Act was made by Indian Parliament in 1963. As per this act, we are going to implement Hindi as an official language, and it will replace English from 1965 onwards. But which was mostly opposed by non-Hindi speaking states. Non-Hindi speaking states did not like the decision of Indian government, and they opposed. How can you impose Hindi forcefully on non-Hindi speaking states? That's why these states opposed the decision of Hindi. So what shall we do? Especially this was more vibrant in southern states, especially in Tamil Nadu. Under the leadership of DMK, these people completely come onto the streets, organized dharnas, rallies and all. They destroyed the boards of shops which were in Hindi, and they burned the Hindi books against the decision of Union government and all. And these non-Hindi states demanded to continue English as a link language between central government and states. So because of these demands, at the time Lal Bahadur Shastri was the Prime Minister of our country. He was from UP, that means Hindi based. He was a pro-Hindi, but due to the grounds of integrity of our country, he took the decision, almost he rolled back the decision of Hindi, and he gave freedom to the states that you can take your own time and learn the Hindi. Until that, both English and Hindi will continue as a link and communicative languages between central government and state governments. In this way, Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was a pro-Hindi but acted as a statesman to protect the integrity of our country. So in this way, suppose if you take the case of Sri Lanka, previous lesson we will see. So Sri Lanka, they made Sinhala was only official language, which was opposed by Tamil people. So here also the same thing. In Hindi, only 40% people who speaks Hindi. What about the remaining 60%? So that's why our constitutional frameworks took the clever decision, as well as even our rulers also were examined clearly, and they acted properly to protect the integrity of our country. If Hindi is imposed in all non-Hindi states forcefully, it may lead to disintegration of the country. So that's why it was our leaders took some clever decisions which protect the spirit of federalism in our country. This was the second test. First test was linguistic states, and second test language policy, especially Hindi. So in the next page, the tabular information is given regarding languages. So altogether, how many languages and what are the important languages which are speaking by more people, and then these 22 languages and how much percentage of people who speaks different languages. The highest number of people who speaks Hindi in our country, 40%. The second highest is Bengali, and third highest Telugu. Bengali some 8.11% and Telugu somehow 7.19%. So in this way, that language problem was solved by our leaders with good decisions and timely decisions and all. And come to center and state relationship. Federalism is nothing but division of power between center and state only. So how this spirit of federalism continued, especially by the union government. If you look back, our that means relationship between central and state. So the central and state relations we can examine under two phases. So earlier phase where the Congress party was a dominant party and most of our country was ruled by Congress party and most of the states were also ruled by Congress party. That is in first phase. And the second phase, so no party is able to secure majority seats in Lok Sabha. That is why more number of parties started to form the governments at center. That's what we call it as a coalition government. Earlier also we learned about coalition government. What is the meaning of coalition government? Two or more political parties form the government and they rule the country. Or a state, then we call it as a coalition government. So come to the Congress party domination in the first phase of Indian independence. Congress party consecutively ruled over India from 1947 to 77. That means first 30 years Congress party ruled. Other parties could not compete with Congress party because it is being a party which fought for Indian independence and it was one of the it gave responsible leadership to get attainment of our independence. That is why it gets support from the people. Slowly other parties also get its base and it increases its vote share and all. Especially in 70s and 80s, some of the regional parties were formed, especially DMK in Tamil Nadu, as well as communist parties in West Bengal. They started to secure political power at all. In the first phase, both Congress party ruled union government and state government. That's why state chief ministers did not get proper powers. That means autonomy was not enjoyed by the states in the first phase. But whereas in second phase, when the regional parties come into emerge and they became the rulers and all. So that's why these regional parties demanded to give more powers to the states and they demanded more autonomy. In this regard, many commissions were formed, like a Sarkaria Commission and other different commissions were formed over the distribution of power between central and state. It gives some sort of recommendations for the healthy relationship between central government and state government. Central governments also accepted these recommendations to retain a good relationship between center and state. And moreover, in the initial stage, Congress party or even we can say BJP or any other national parties, they misuse Article 356. What is Article 356? As per Article 356, President can suspend any elected government of any state and President rule will be implemented. So, where opposition parties formed governments in different states were suspended by misusing Article 356. So, in 1990s, especially SR Bommai case and some other cases, Supreme Court gave clear guidelines to the union government that you should not suspend the government as per your wish. Arbitrarily, you can't suspend the state governments without a proper cause and all. So, later on, this misusing of Article 356 is somehow what we can say rare cases and all. So in this way the relationship between central government and state government also healthy now because now we are in coalition era. So that means within the central government not only national parties, many regional parties or state parties are also part of coalition government. That's why national government can't take the decisions against the states. So because being the partners of the national government or union government. So in this way, federalism is practiced in our country in a better manner. Even though the challenges like linguistic states, reorganize the country based on linguistic states, as well as language policy, especially Hindi, and state and central relation. These are all the problems were overcome by India because of good leadership as well as the political parties, how it adopt the spirit of democracy, and how the judiciary also play an important role to safeguard federalism in our country. So come to the questions. What type of questions they may give the concept which what we learned on today. The first we may expect that one question from linguistic states. That means what kind of questions they may give? Reorganize the states based on language, must develop national integrity of the country. Justify the statement. This is the question. Reorganize the states based on language, promotes national integrity. Justify the statement. And what is the answer? Initially, our leaders feared that if we reorganize the states based on language, it will be threat to the integrity of the country. But which proven that perception was wrong. That means linguistic states helped to more consolidation of our country. That means which promotes national integrity of our country. So in this way, you have to write the answer for that concerned question. Language policy. And why don't we impose one language as a official language or national language of our country? Explain. Because India is a multilingual society. If we make only one language as a linked language or official language, other language people may not accept. That is why, which is not right. Slowly we decided to promote Hindi in all other non-Hindi speaking states, and then it will become a communicative and official language of our country and all. And then relationship between central government and state government. Under these two phases also you can take as a question. In this way, we can expect three kinds of questions from the concept whatever we discuss. So you have to update your CVworks either in your classwork book or on A4 sheets. If you write on A4 sheets, again you need not write the CVwork. These A4 sheets we will keep in the CVwork book. That's it. Okay. I hope you have to update before the next class and learn the question answers and all. One more part is there in this lesson. After completion of this, next class I will send even worksheet based on the complete lesson. You go through the worksheet and you have to send back to me through the group or personal WhatsApp number. I hope you all have my number with you. You have to complete the whatever the worksheet will be given in the next class. You have to fill and send back to me. By that we come to know that we did the work. Even CVwork also the same. Complete the CVwork, take the snaps and send. Okay. Thank you.